System maps developed based on the causal loop diagramming conventions of system dynamics start with identifying key stock variables. The rectangles in this figure denote stock variables that behave like a bathtub, rising or falling based on inflows and outflows. For example, the inflow of regeneration rate, new fish being born, increases the stock of juvenile fish, while the outflow of maturation rate decreases the stock as juvenile fish age and move into the stock of adult fish over time. Likewise, the adult fish stock is increased by maturation rate and decreased by fish dying, the mortality rate. Arrows represent a causal link moving from a cause to an effect. The nature of that causal link is indicated by polarity signs. A plus sign denotes that the cause and effect move in the same direction, holding all else constant. So, for example, an increase in adult fish population causes an increase in the regeneration rate, just as a decrease in the adult fish population would lead to a decrease in the regeneration rate. A minus sign indicates that the cause and effect move in the opposite direction. So, for example, if the maturation time increases, the maturation rate would decrease, indicating that it takes longer for fish to mature from juvenile to adult. Therefore, for any given stock of juvenile fish, the maturation rate per year is lower. Causal links together form loops. And these loops are crucial for understanding the dynamics of any system structure. An R loop indicates a reinforcing feedback process, and the B indicates a balancing feedback process. For example, if the adult fish stock increases, this leads to increased regeneration rate, which increases the juvenile fish population, and eventually, as fish mature, increases the adult fish population. This is loop R1. The loop B1 works in the opposite direction so that it tends to deplete the adult fish stock. More adult fish lead to increased mortalities, which in turn leads to fewer adult fish. The following series of diagrams characterize basic forces that drive overfishing in fisheries around the world. The first set of forces start with fish catches rising, leading to increased incomes, leading to incentive to fish harder to drive incomes still further. This first loop, indicated as R2, drives increasing fishing activity through increasing income and the desire to make still more money. Go on now to the next slide. This next slide describes a different set of forces that also drive overfishing, arising particularly in the developing world from instability of income. When fish catch continues to rise, rising fish supplies can drive prices down. These falling prices then lead to falling incomes for fishers, which then, because of wanting to maintain income, lead to still further fishing efforts and driving a second self-reinforcing spiral indicated as R3, wherein falling prices and incomes drive further fishing effort. Loops R2 and R3 together characterize the fundamental dilemma around overfishing in the developing country. There are forces to overfish when incomes are rising, and there are forces to overfish when incomes are falling. Together, the two are powerful forces that lead to overfishing again and again. Go on to the next slide. As these self-reinforcing dynamics lead to larger and larger fish catches, eventually a new set of dynamics come into play as the adult fish stock starts to go into decline. This last self-reinforcing process is often characterized as the race for fish. And the way it works is as fish catch rises, adult fish stock goes down. As the fish stock goes down, the catch per fishing effort goes down also. Fishers have to work harder and harder to catch the same amount of fish, which leads them to actually have to fish harder. They travel further afield in their boats. They work longer hours, trying to keep their fish catch up even as the depletion continues. This last loop, indicated R4, is a classic tragedy of the commons collapse dynamic, that once fish stocks start to fall, the catch per effort falls and the fishing effort increases, driving fish stocks down even further. It is not unusual in situations like this to find fishers developing a sort of gallows humor, where they literally do talk about being engaged in a race to catch the last fish. Together, loops R2, R3, and R4 provide powerful understanding of the forces that tend to drive overfishing. And when understood or appreciated collectively by the fishing communities themselves, can be a sobering insight into the sorts of changes needed in order to operate and live in a very different way. This is the end of the narration for these slides.